Good evening everybody and welcome back to the channel. North47 here with some more PGA Tour 2K21, but today we're not going to be playing a live round. Instead there's just going to be a couple of rounds from Hogsbreath Country Club. I believe the event is called the TGC CC Practice and it's at Peel Castle Golf Links, because today what I want to talk about is swing timing or tempo, whichever you prefer to call it. Personally myself, I go by tempo, and as well as just a couple of little gameplay things for observation or whatever, just to watch out for when you're playing, because I do notice that a lot of people seem to be struggling with getting perfect tempo, especially ever since the server-side patch that sorted out that red fast issue that everyone was having and everybody was complaining about. But also just some things that you can do in game as well as outside the game to try and help. These are some of the things that I do personally anyway, to try and help you get a little bit more perfect, and then once you get a feel for it you can start implementing when and where to use a grey fast to take advantage of, say like the likes of a par 5, or maybe you're stuck in between clubs and there's a long par 3, maybe your woods are a little bit too long but you have say the 4-iron, maybe it's just a little bit too shy, but if you were to just adjust your aim and hit a grey fast, you'll get that extra bit of yardage, just help it to get onto the green, that sort of thing. So these are going to be in no particular order really, but I will start with a couple that are outside of the game. So let's get straight on into it. So I've just actually finished recording the commentary for this, and it was part, can I even get the words out now? Part way through the video I did realise that I never actually said it here, so I did say it there at whatever point it was in the video, but I thought I'd just come back and re-record it quick. That anything that I do go through, any of the points that I talk about in here, they are not, whether it's one of them or all of them, are not 100% guaranteed to ensure you will get a perfect downswing or a perfect swing at all times. You will still get fast, you'll still get slows, you'll still get red fast, you'll still get red slows. It's not 100% guaranteed, they are still going to happen. So I just wanted to throw that in there just before we do get on into the points, but we'll get back onto the video now and I hope you do enjoy it. Okay, so the first thing, as I did say, the first couple of things are going to be outside. Well, the first 2 or 3 things are going to be things that you can do outside of the game to try and help you improve, or get a little bit more consistent with perfect downswings. And the first one is one that maybe a lot of people might not actually think of, and that is actually going to be your internet connection, how you're connected to the internet. Yeah, now, this game, it doesn't require the fastest possible internet speed that is available to you. I mean, as long as you can stream like YouTube videos, Netflix or anything like that, this game, it'd be no problem. You'll be able to play the course, because what a lot of people don't realise is actually the courses, if you're not connected to the internet, the only courses that you can play, I'm sure you're aware, are going to be the official HB courses, so all the TPC courses, etc. But when you're actually playing a community created course like the one going on in the background now, you're actually you're basically streaming that course. So as I say, you don't need the strongest or fastest possible internet that is available to you, but what you can do is, if you're not already doing it, I do highly recommend connecting your console PC, whatever you're playing on, by Ethernet cable. Reason for that being is, if you're playing over Wi-Fi, you've got drops in signal strength depending on how far away from your router that you are. Then you've also got to factor in the likes of anybody else in the house, or even just your own phone or anything like that. All these devices that are going to be connected to the internet at the same time. Even though you might have your phone sitting beside you and it's not active, the screen's not lighting up or anything like that, there's no apps active, those apps are actually still going to be active in the background. They're constantly going to be checking in with the Wi-Fi saying, hey, you got any notifications for me, any new emails coming through, Facebook doing anything, all that sort of stuff, is there any app updates or anything. So like they're constantly, everything is going to be fighting for that signal strength, and that can cause little drops in your connection. So I do definitely highly recommend getting connected up. I mean, if you require, I mean, I know it's not going to be possible for everybody depending on where in your house or apartment, wherever you're living. As I say, wherever your router is and wherever you have your console or PC set up. But if it is possible, and you are playing on Wi-Fi, I do recommend just getting as long as required Ethernet cable. Like myself, my router right away from me now, waiting the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4, is probably maybe about 3 meters in a perfectly straight line. But because of the way that I have to route it around the wall and then up around the back of the desk and stuff, I actually had to go with a 5 meter cable. Just any excess just tucked it up nice and neat out of sight. But it definitely helps improve. It's going to improve load times as well. And downloads. If you're downloading a game or downloading a patch, it'll also help to improve that. So that is the first one. The second one is what you're playing on. Are you playing on a TV or are you playing on a monitor? Now, if you're playing on a monitor, generally you're going to have pretty good refresh rate on those. Like personally myself, now I've switched over. I have always been playing on TV, but over a few months ago I switched over. I'm now playing on a monitor. The monitor that I actually use is a 27-inch Acer Nitro, and it's a 1440p monitor, 144 Hz, and it has a 1 millisecond response time. So if you're planning, if you're not currently, but you're planning on getting a monitor, try and get one that has the best or the lowest response time. So as I say, this one is a 1 millisecond response time, so very quick. The inputs that I do in the controller, it's going to show up very quick. TVs, as far as I'm aware, specification wise, they don't really take that into account. Not that I know of, I've never noticed it. It could well do. But if you are playing on a TV, excuse me, one thing that you can do if you're not already doing it is on the actual channel source that you have it on. So say, for example, your TV box is hooked up to HDMI 1 and your console, or even PC, I've heard of people playing PC on TVs, and that's hooked up to HDMI 2. On HDMI 2, just switch it over to game mode. Depending on your TV's model, make and model, I'm not sure where it be, but generally it does tend to be in the picture settings. So just fiddle around in there, just find game mode. It should not affect your other HDMI source. It should just affect the one that you have your console or PC connected up to. And what that'll do is, technically I suppose you could say it's kind of like response time kind of thing. Because if I had it open here a second ago, just to, yeah, pretty much. So what does putting your TV in game mode do? Game mode is available on all current TVs. So, like, I mean, the TV that I was using was, like, I mean, I'd gotten that, like, I mean, I have a 4K TV there now, so the one that I was using before that I'd gotten back in 2009. It was a 50-inch Samsung, and that had a 60 Hz refresh rate. Now, this game, you can now play 2K, and HB did a patch a break. It can now output 60 Hz, so your TV should be more than capable of that. But your TV electronically bypasses, when you turn on game mode, your TV electronically bypasses two of the video signal processors in the TV, subsequently cutting down the amount of time the TV needs to process the video input from your game. So essentially, I suppose you could say increasing the response time. So that is one thing that I would highly recommend. The only thing that it can do, now I've personally never noticed it, but again, depending on the make and model of your TV, it may slightly alter the colours on screen, so they might become a little duller, or in some cases they might become more vibrant, so maybe you might need to also just play around with them if needs be. But that is certainly one thing, if you are playing on TV, that I would personally recommend is always switching over. Where it really does come in handy, because this is a quick time. If you think along the lines of in any action games, like the quick time response, where a button will flash up on the screen, you got to press it quick to complete the action and pass the challenge or whatever, that sort of thing. It's loosely based along this, I think, is one way to describe this game. So you want to be having it as going as smooth as possible. So it will really help on that. I kind of lost train of thought there when I was talking about that there. But no, yeah, if you're playing on TV, definitely switch on game mode. I believe actually some monitors as well. I think actually this monitor that I'm on actually has a game mode as well. I'm not too sure actually. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, even if you are playing on a monitor and it hasn't got the fastest of response times, have a look through your settings, and if there is a game mode on that as well, switch it on to game mode. You don't need a very high refresh rate like what I have. I mentioned there a moment ago. It's 144 hertz. As the game only outputs 60 hertz, it's gonna cap at that pretty much. Plus also at the moment, currently anyway, the PlayStation 5 doesn't support, Sony, get the finger out, doesn't support 1440p resolution. It just supports 1080 and then it jumps right up to 4K. So the game is going to cap for me obviously anyway at 1080p 60. But I mean, still looks a hell of a lot better and plays a hell of a lot smoother. So that's if you're TV monitor kind of thing. Next one is your controller. Now there is one thing that I will religiously do here, but there is controller wise, there's some things that I cannot really give advice about. It's going to be more down to yourself. But for the first one is now I cannot help for setting this up in terms of Xbox, either Xbox One or Series X or Series S or PC. I'm not sure where the where settings are specifically for this. PC, I think it's just connected up anyway. But on the PS4 or the PS5, I always play with the controller wired. Now again, going back to the internet connection one, I know this might not be possible for everybody, depending on how you're set up. I mean, you could be sitting the far side of the room, watching on a big screen or whatever, or playing on a big screen. But if you can, yeah, I know you can pick up long cables, is to wire up, because again, similar to the internet connection, if you're going over the Bluetooth, over time, say you're playing for a couple of hours, say maybe you're playing, I don't know, throw a couple of games out there as an example, say maybe you're playing Call of Duty or FIFA, a couple of popular titles, and then you decide, do you know what, I'm going to jump on and I'm going to play a bit of PGA Tour. Over those couple of hours, your battery's drained, so now it's going to be, basically it's struggling a bit more for signal. But whereas if you're wired up, you don't even have to worry about that. But what you do need to do, again, this is going to be PlayStation specific, I'm not sure. PC shouldn't be a problem, it should be just connect up your controller, you're good to go. But Xbox, I don't know if there's anything in the settings there. But for PlayStation anyway, make sure that you head into your settings. I believe it's under devices and then maybe controllers, I think it is. I can't remember. I haven't actually properly looked on the PS5, but I think that's on the PS4. And what you need to do is change the controller's communication method with the console from Bluetooth to USB. Now you can still obviously play. If you just disconnect the cable, it'll automatically kick back into Bluetooth. And then if you connect back up the cable, it'll automatically, the USB connection will automatically take over. If I remember correct, if you're on a PS4, this will only work if you have a DualShock 4 version 2. So if you're on the OG PlayStation 4, the very first style DualShock 4 that they brought out, that cannot be changed to use USB. That can only be, even if you are wired up, it can only be used as it's just going to charge the battery while you're playing, so it's still going to be going through the Bluetooth. Another reason for this as well is that if you're in party chats, and say your headset is Bluetooth, like one of the headsets that I have is the Turtle Beach Stealth 600. That's a stealth. That's a Bluetooth headset. So we've got the dongle that I need to have into the PS4 as well if I'm using that. And then if I'm using Bluetooth on the controller, I've now got two Bluetooth signals fighting for to be the more dominant one. They both want that full Bluetooth connection, so that can also interfere with your timing a little bit. So if you do use the likes of a headset like that, being wired up and then connect and communicating through USB, your headset can work away fine and it's not going to interfere with your game. The next one now, moving on into the game itself. Now if you're watching the gameplay here in the background, This is actually my very first round of the day. I'll touch on to a little bit more on this a little bit later in the video, a few more points down. But literally all that I've done, I've mentioned it a few times in videos where I have a little routine where I'll just head onto the driving range and I'll just hit shot after shot until, as I've said, 3 is the magic number. I get 3 perfect downswings and then I head out onto the course. So literally I'd just done that before recording this. I only recorded this, it's just coming up on 10 p.m. now. I'd recorded this gameplay. I started recording it at about, I think it was just after 8 p.m. So just before that, I just spent a few minutes on the range, just hitting the shots. I think it was about 10-15 minutes. Just excuse me for a second, I just need to clear the throat. Yeah, so I just hit a few shots, got the perfects, and then headed out onto the course. This is my very first round. Again, I'll touch on to the very first round aspect of things now again shortly. But watching the gameplay here in the video, you'll probably notice it in a lot of my videos lately as well, that I'm doing that just a backswing and readdressing the ball. It's kind of more than one reason for this. It doesn't really affect on the newer consoles like the PS5 and I presume the Xbox as well, the Series S or Series X. PC should be fine. But on PS4, I noticed that sometimes a course, depending on the level of detail on the course, it could be a little bit laggy, or maybe even if your connection, again, if you're going off Wi-Fi or something like that, even if you're connected up by Ethernet cable like I always am, the course can be a bit laggy. And just doing that fake or dummy swing, as I call it, just up to the top of the backswing and then readdress the ball, can just kind of take out that bit of lag. But the other reason for it is going up to the top of the backswing and readdressing the ball. Even if you have to do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times, just pick out a spot when you see the club head reach the top and it stops. It's no longer going to move. It helps a little bit more as well if you have the haptic feedback on, so the vibration. Just watching for where the club is going to stop, and that's your transition point of where you want to start pushing forward. Another little thing that you can do is keep an eye on the gameplay in the background, and instead of watching my golfer taking the swing, when I'm taking the swing, have a look at the shot feedback for any shots that are off the green, and just watch the perfect zone up at the top, and even actually the swing line itself. And what you'll notice is that as the club head reaches the top of the backswing and it's hitting that transition point, the swing line and the perfect tempo zone, they're going to pinch in. And so that's kind of two ways. What you can do is either watching the top of the club or watching the club head for where it's going to stop, and your transition point, as I say, the haptic feedback will assist you with that. It's also great for partial shots. But we'll just take a look now. Just watch the backswing and you'll see it just very slightly just pinches, and that's your transition point. So you can do either of those, watch the club head or watch the feedback. Personally myself, like, the feedback does work quite well, but I actually prefer more watching the club, because there can kind of be that sort of what's the best way to describe it? It's like we'll have a look at this and I'll see if I can describe it as it's happening. The way it sort of slows down, it's sort of like it's hit the point and then it's kind of like as if it's springing ready to fling forward when you transition to do the downswing. That's sort of the best way that I can describe it. But that's one thing that I always do now. As I say, even though lagginess in courses don't really affect with playing on the PlayStation 5 now, it definitely can help with lagginess on the likes of the PS4 or the Xbox One. But it's also a great visual reference for when to start your downswing. Moving on is one that even I, to be honest, only up until recently, those of you who watch quite a lot of my content will notice that since they dropped in game, I've been using the Titleist clubs, the gold tier. I can't remember the name of them, but now what you'll notice is I'm actually back using the TaylorMade, the SimMax gold tier as well. Now the Titleist clubs, the driver in particular anyway, just seeing the distance there, that had a carry at 280. This is the same tier, it's a little bit more forgiving, but it loses 2 yards carry. I think all clubs that I have in the bag now at the moment are they're averaging about 2 yards carry loss, 2 yards of loss on the carry, which, I mean, to be honest, is not much. I'm still more than able to hit the distances that I was, just maybe just slight adjustments here and there, but it makes no big difference. So that's to say, I've mentioned this before, as like I'm pretty sure I've done a video on it as well, as getting to know your clubs. I think I did it in TGC 2019 as well, as getting to know your clubs and finding the clubs that are right for you. Just because John over there plays with the purple tier Bridgestone clubs that hit the furthest and that they're the least forgiving, they're the most punishing clubs, does not mean that you have to. You can play with the most forgiving, shortest hitting clubs and still potentially beat John if you need to, or if it's at all possible. Once you're playing, like, I mean, he could be banging out red slows and red fast, left, right, and centre. You've got a lot more forgiving clubs. You're getting more perfects. So find a balance of clubs that's right for you. Because, say, I had been playing with the Titleist clubs since they dropped, but I never even twigged it only until about 3-4 days ago, I think it was. I was like, there's just something not right. Something's not going. I just can't put my finger on it. And then I twigged. Hold on a second. Change the clubs, and I said, I'll go back go back to the TaylorMade clubs, the clubs which I initially used when the game launched. And although, like, I mean, one thing that I did forget to mention at the start of the video is that a little disclaimer, I'll probably actually try and just edit it in after doing all this, is a little disclaimer basically that anything that I talk about in here in this video is actually not guaranteed to give you 100% perfect. You are still going to get fast, whether you use one of these things or you use all of them. I mean, you'll see plenty of red fasts throughout the 2 rounds here in this. Nothing is guaranteed. Like, I mean, you're still always going to get them. It could be that your thumb just snaps forward, or maybe it doesn't snap forward quick enough and you're getting the red slows instead. But just finding that balance of clubs, finding the ones that are right for you, as I say, just because person A and person B are using those long hitting clubs, or maybe even the mid-range hitting clubs, doesn't mean you, being person C, has to do the same. Just find the ones that are right for you. It doesn't have to be all from the same brand as well. Like myself, I've got TaylorMade all the way through the bag. You could have a Bridgestone driver, TaylorMade, Woods, let me see, we'll just say, Titleist irons or whatever, Mizuno, whatever ones you want to do, whatever is the best combination for you. I know of a couple of people that use long hitting drivers, so like the Bridgestone driver, the purple grade, but then on the likes of the wedges, they've got the shortest hitting and most forgiving to make sure that they're more accurate on their approach shots. Personally, myself, I just like to go through the same colour grade, so I've got the gold grade all the way through, and the same brand. That's just my personal preference. But again, it's finding what's right for you in the game. Now the next one is actually, did I say, going back, just looking at the list of things here when I was talking about the controller, I'm trying to remember. The one thing that I cannot help you with or help anybody with on controllers is because a number of people have asked me, how do I get perfects and how do I get like the swing line as well. One thing that I actually cannot help you with is you yourself and your controller. I don't know what your controller is like. See, what could happen is, as well, you might be playing perfectly fine, and then over time your controller wears down, the dead zones are going to be gone. So that can make it a little bit more erratic. But then, say you upgrade, but your muscle memory is going to get used to that. So you'll adjust to that over time. But then say you get a brand new controller and everything's really, really fresh in it, all the springs and all that stuff, everything's working perfect, nothing's loose or anything like that. You've now got to retrain your muscle memory for that controller, and that can throw you off a little bit. Some people can just adjust straight away, just get a feel for it like that, blink of an eye, and they're back to normal. Other people, they can take months. Even I've seen a couple of people saying that they're really struggling after getting a new controller. They go back to their old controller, and they're playing fine. It's just the muscle memory you need to adjust for that new controller, and the different sensitivity, plus also the fact that not every controller is the same. You could get 2 brand new controllers. One could work perfect and you're playing no problem. Pick up the other one and try that one and you're all over the place. No controller is exactly the same, even though like official Sony made ones. It doesn't matter. Same at Microsoft. Their controllers, none of them are exactly the same. There's always going to be slight variations, differences in each controller. But getting back onto where we were, anyways, just looking at the list there, I just happened to think that I forgot to mention that one. But the next one is, this can be, I'm going to do the two sides of this one, and both can be a little bit of the best way to describe it, I suppose you could say, would be a double-edged sword. They can both have the good points and the bad points, and what it is how regular you play. Now, like any game, the more you play it, the better you can be, and the more regular that you play it, the more your, as I mentioned a moment ago about the controllers, the more your muscle memory is going to build up, especially for the likes of this game. So your muscle memory is going to build up for your swing timing, and for working out and calculating your shots as well. But at the same time, not everybody really suffers from it. I can myself, is burnout on the game. If you're playing it a bit too much, burnout can be a right thing, and it's just, your brain just goes to mush, and you think you're working out shots perfectly, but yeah, you're just, yeah. I've had instances where I've had a tailwind, but I've calculated for a headwind. So I've had it on a club, or vice versa. I've had a headwind and calculated, the brain's just not functioning, just acknowledging everything on screen properly. So I've got a headwind and I've calculated for a tailwind or something like that, and I've clubbed down, and I'm either way too long if it's the tailwind, and I'm way too short if it's the headwind, so on and so forth. So as I say, you can have the good points and the bad points with playing very regularly. As I say, some people can just play a game constantly and religiously and just be absolute beasts at it. But at the same time, it can be worth taking a bit of time, take a day or two off maybe. Maybe if there's another game comes out, just take a day or two off, play that, maybe come back and play a few rounds or something like that. But then, as I say, on the flip side, you've got the how regular do you play? Because if you're not playing regularly enough, again, like, I mean, if you're just more of a casual player, you just like, maybe at the weekend is the only time that you get a chance to play, you get on, you knock out a few rounds or something like that. It's, again, going back to the muscle memory. It's my personal opinion, maybe you agree, maybe you don't, my personal opinion is that this game is a very, very heavily dependent on muscle memory when it comes to swing. Like, your swing line doesn't matter too much because you've got the forgiveness zones. It's very, very tempo based. So the muscle memory is very key, especially if you're on master swing, for example, and you're using the less forgiving clubs, the longer hitting clubs. So for myself, as an example, when I took the few months break there from recording, I was actually dedicating a lot more time to other games. So instead of playing 4 or 5 rounds a day maybe, which is what I used to play a lot more every day than that, is I was lucky if I was playing 2 or 3 rounds a week, maybe just jump on, play a round. And because I was dedicating more time to other games and chipping away at those to complete them, my muscle memory was gone, and I was just all over the place. I'm actually still very slightly struggling with it a little bit, but I'm slowly but surely getting back on track, because I am starting to play a bit more consistently again, because of the fact that I am back recording. So therefore I need to. But as I say, that's what I'm saying, like, it can be a bit of a double-edged sword in both cases there, of overplaying, where you can just get that burnout. Your brain and your muscles are just like, oh, really? Again, we're playing this? Do you not want to play something else for a while? And then on the flip side of the coin, you've got your muscles trying to say, oh, wait, what do you want me to do? Oh, you want me to pull back and then go forward at this particular time? Oh, well, you're going to have to give me practice at that. That's basically the best way that I can describe it. It's because it's a very, very heavily dependent game on muscle memory. You can just as well, even if you're kind of balanced, you play regular, but it's, say, maybe you're knocking out 2-3 rounds a day, say 1 to 3 rounds a day or something like that. You're quite a regular player. You can be quite balanced at it. You can just have your off days. You can have your slumps in the game as well. No matter how regular you play, whether it's not at all or very regular, you can just have slumps in the game where it might be a day or two, nothing goes right for you. myself in the past, in the previous games, even in this one as well, I've just had weeks where just nothing, absolutely nothing can go right. It could easily be down to getting just not able to read the greens, or just not able to calculate the shots right, and it's just step back for a while and just put a different game on, or just put the controller down, walk away, clear your head, because the more that you get frustrated as well, that's going to snowball and get out of control, and that's going to cause you to lose your swing timing as well, and be very erratic on them, because you're frustrating yourself. I can't remember. I got it on the list actually. I can sort of touch on it actually on another one of the points, another one or two of the points coming up. But basically, is I've lost the train of thought what I was going to say there now again. That's because looking down at this. But yeah, that's regular play anyway. It'll come back to me. Another one that that I do, not as often. There's kind of two ways that I do it as well. But that's like, some people will say it's like a placebo effect, that it doesn't actually work. But if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it is like a placebo effect, then so be it. But I mean, it generally tends to work for me for a short while. That's just swing calibration. Just every so often, if you feel that you're just not hitting those perfects, if you tend to be more on the fast side or more on the slow side, just head into the range, excuse me, and just calibrate your swing. Now, what I do, I'm actually not sure if it still works, but I know it did work for a while, is for myself, I always play on Master, apart from just in one society, which is Locked On Pro. I'll touch onto that now in a minute as to why that can be a good and bad thing as well. But in terms of swing calibration, what I did was, with playing on Master, when calibrating, I would actually jump the swing difficulty up to Legend, calibrate on there, and then jump back to Master, because obviously you're going to have a little more forgiving timing zone for getting perfect on the Master than you are over the Legend. And the same, you can work it down. If you play on Pro, calibrate on Legend, drop back down to Pro if you're having a little bit of trouble on Pro. And the same with what's the one below that? I think, is it Amateur? I can't remember. Jump it up to Pro, calibrate on Pro, drop back down, and so on and so forth. But that was one thing, as I say, even if it is a placebo effect and it doesn't actually do anything, which I'm pretty sure it does, it has to do something to some degree anyway, otherwise it wouldn't be in the game to begin with. It's basically telling the game, here, listen, this is how fast or how slow I'm moving the stick back and forth today, so let's work together on this. It's essentially, basically, that's one way of describing it. So just do that. It doesn't have to be overly regular, but maybe even like once a week. It's only 10 swings, that's all you have to do anyway. It takes, 2 minutes, if even 2 minutes, just knock out 10 shots with the driver, calibrate the swing, and you're back out on the course. But I did mention there a moment ago as well about that I always play on Master, apart from one society, which is Locked On Pro. And the next thing is changing back and forth between swing difficulties. Now, why this can be bad is, just say, for example, keep it kind of simplish. Just say you're in 4 different societies. Maybe 2 of them are Master, 2 of them are Pro. 3 of them are Master, 1 of them's Pro. 3 of them are Pro, 1 is Master. What could be bad here is, again, it's going back to muscle memory. It's much more forgiving on Pro than it is on Master. And I mean, I'm sure as you're aware, myself and a number of other content creators were in a Discord with 2K and such. And there was a few of the guys were actually bringing up about the, what way did they phrase it again? The difficulty spike is the phrase that I want to use, but jumping from Pro up to Master. That maybe there could be a little bit more balance in there, because if you were to go side by side with the exact same driver or any club in your bag on Pro and then change it to Master and just see the difference in size of I don't know why I'm moving my hand around, because nobody can see me. I'm pinching my fingers back and forth here, visually in front of myself, representing the swing time and window. But anyway, back to it. Yeah, there's quite a difference there. So one thing that I do recommend is, if you are in that sort of thing where you're regularly playing societies, or you have the day to yourself, say, right, I'm going to knock out the events in these 4 societies, whatever amount of societies it is. But if they are across different difficulty levels or swing difficulties, so in this case, X amount around Master, X amount around Pro, I highly recommend playing the Master ones first, and then, or whatever, if it's Pro, and then down onto Amateur, whichever it is. Just play the higher difficulty ones first, and then play the lower difficulty. Reason for that being, again, my personal opinion and experience, maybe you might feel different, maybe it doesn't affect you at all, is that if you play, again, we'll just use Pro and Master as the example. If you play on the Pro difficulty first, and you've warmed up there with that, your muscles have kicked in for the swing timing, and then you jump up onto the Master, you've got a lot less forgiveness when it comes to getting the timing right, so you can be all over the place for that. But whereas completely the opposite, if you do the Master first and then drop it down onto the Pro, you're actually going to have a much easier generally, again, my personal experience and opinion, is you're going to have a much easier time. It can be the case where things just don't go right, but you can have generally a more easier experience on the Pro after playing on Master and dropping down to play that event. So that's one thing that I would recommend if you are in societies and you're going up and down between swing difficulties, is just do the higher difficulty first. The next one then as well is, with the gameplay going on in the background, even have a look, but you can do it yourself as well, is actually just head to the range where you don't even have to hit shots. You can just change between your clubs and go between the different shot types of each club. And even if you wish, turn on the what's it called again, because I never use it, but the power bar. Turn that on and watch for the perfect zones, because different shot types and shot adjustments. I don't think I actually very rarely use it now, because it is quite difficult. It's very, very difficult actually to use, and that's a partial splash shot out of a bunker or anywhere. But that's for another video. I'm not going to get into that one right now. But looking at your timing window for getting it perfect, different shot types, they're going to be less, your flop shot is going to be a lot more difficult to pull off rather than a pitch shot, or again, splash out like a splash shot. But also, as you make adjustments, so even if you're on a full shot with a lob wedge, if you start adding a bit of loft and maybe change the attack angle for a bit more spin, as soon as you make them adjustments, you're already making that shot more difficult, even though it could be potentially one of the easiest shots in your bag. If that's the right way to use it, or right term to use. Because again, as you make those adjustments, you're shrinking down your timing window. So you got to keep that in mind as well, that your timing, your muscle memory has to be even more on point. And that's why, going back to the point earlier on in the video, where, as you can see it now in the background, I'm just doing that dummy backswing right up to getting the club up to the top of the backswing, readdressing the ball, and then taking the swing. Again, you can do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times if needs be, but especially again if you're doing partial shots, again you're getting it more difficult because you've got that shorter swing before you've got to push forward. So any shot adjustments for loft, spin, partial, just shot type in general, just be aware of that they can be more difficult, and different shots have different. I don't know if this is just me in my head. Maybe I'll agree with it, but different tempo for pushing forward. So I personally find that we'll take a full splash shot. Not gonna talk partial or even adjusting loft or anything like that, but a full splash shot. Say my splash shot on these clubs carries 20 yards. So I want to go the full 20 yards with that full 20 yard carry. I feel that I have to actually push forward a lot slower than I would with a full shot with the driver. So you need to just keep all that sort of stuff in mind. because it's a very simulation based game. Obviously, it's more simulation based than arcadey. So it's not just a case of pull back, snap it forward, pull back, snap it forward, rinse and repeat, and just go into autopilot mode, just switch off and just bang out a 20 under par round every single time. This is the kind of game you have to be on point. You have to be focusing on your shots, especially if you're on the likes of the master swing. I'm not making this video be particularly towards master swing. Like, this is across all difficulty swings. I don't discriminate against a person playing on the easiest setting compared to a person playing on the hardest setting. It absolutely makes no difference to me what swing difficulty you personally play on. Everybody has their own skill level, and if somebody wants to just play on the easiest swing level, by all means go ahead. Somebody wants to play on the hardest, by all means go ahead. If you want to play on the easiest and build yourself up as you start finding the easiest one too easy, and build yourself up and up and up and find your limit, by all means go ahead. Again, I don't judge anybody for what way they play the game. At the end of the day, you paid the money for the game. You're entitled to play it how you want. Excuse me. But just always make sure to keep that in mind for different shot types. And I'm kind of rambling on between points here. I'm touching on to things that I could have mentioned in previous things. But another one then is, as I mentioned earlier, when was I mentioned it? The regular play. I think I was talking about regular play. But at the start, at this video, the first round that was played, this is obviously halfway through the second round now. All I'd done before that was my little warm-up routine on the driving range. Now, I know, obviously, somebody's probably already thinking, if not typing in comments or whatever, but saying that the driving range is a quote-unquote controlled environment. I am aware of that. That obviously it is part of the game, that even if you don't have an internet connection, you can still head out onto the driving range and play away. It's as I say, controlled environment. Whereas when you get down onto the course, you're quote unquote streaming the course. So there's a lot more variation for, again, a bit of lagginess or input lag or anything like that. So that's why the main reason, as I say, I always go for the 3 perfect swings before I even leave. I mean, I could get that straight away, just bang, 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 3 perfects right away. Or I could be there for about 10-15 minutes and play away. Now, again, I know not everybody has the time to be able to do this. Sometimes maybe you can just you've got a quick half hour, jump on, play around, and you're getting a bit frustrated then because you haven't warmed up and you're just banging out red fast, red slows, red fast, red slows. Maybe the odd perfect sneaks its way in there. But that's, I say, if you do have the time, like myself, my little routine is just to head onto the driving range, just hit out a few shots. And the main reason for it is, apart from just getting those 3 perfects, is actually just to warm up my thumb. I don't know what your swing technique is. You might use the chest grip or something like that, or maybe just like myself, you just use your thumb back and forth. But just basically warming up your muscles, getting the muscle memory kicking into gear. So your thumb, or again, whatever grip style you use, you could use your big toe for swinging for all I know. But once your big toe knows what it needs to do on the stick, moving back and forward, that's one of the reasons for that. But another thing that I do as well is, I did mention earlier that the previous round played earlier on in the video was my first round of the day, apart from just hitting those few shots on the driving range. What I generally tend to do is, I can't remember how many societies I'm in, but just say, for example, this society at the moment, it only had a few hours left, but just say it had an hour left and maybe it was a full 4 round event. I know I'm not going to have time to play the full 4 rounds within the hour, but maybe there's one of the other societies, it's a 1, 2, 3 or 4 round event in that one, but it's going on for a couple of days and I want to get that out of the way. Just say, for example, TGC Tours. What I do is I just head into I'd head into Hog's Breath for that one that I'm not going to be able to finish in time, and I'll just use the first round of that as a warm-up round as well. And that's just to get a feel for not only warming up the muscle memory for the swinging, but also as well calculating shots, firing them into the green, get an idea, okay, X amount up, X amount down, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. But the main thing is, as I say, warming up the swing, warming up your timing, warming up your putts as well, getting a feel for reading greens, even though you can do that again in the controlled environment of the practice facility. But that is one thing that I do as well. So if any societies that I'm in, if people ever notice that you see that I've only played one round or something right before the end, that's usually what I've done. I've just picked a random event in one of the societies that I'm in, and just used that as a warm-up round. But that is, I think that's everything that I can think of, to be honest. I know this video has gone on for quite a bit now. What are we touching on? Just over, coming up in 45 minutes now, I think. Gameplay wise, just looking at the time on the screen now, is just shy of 55 minutes. Quite a long video. If I can, I'll try and remember maybe to do chapters on this. It's probably going to be a bit difficult. I'll have to be scanning right through the whole thing before hitting publish to be able to do that, so I probably won't. But yeah, that is everything that I can think of. If there's anything that you can think of, any little rituals or anything like that, like as I say, just doing that dummy backswing, as I call it, just up to the top and then readdress, just to find the point at where you want to push forward, the transition point. If there's anything like that maybe you do slightly different or anything like that, feel free to drop down below. And or have you tried any of these things? Do you do any of these things yourselves, whether it's in or out of the game? And do they work well for you as well? But what I will do is I will finish off the commentary here. I'll leave you with the rest of the round. If you're interested in seeing how well I finished in this event, as you can see just there at 13 under through 12 on the second round. Spoiler alert, I didn't win. But yeah, if you're interested, feel free to just carry on watching the rest of the videos. About roughly another 8-9 minutes left today. But as I say, that is where I'll leave the commentary anyway. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. Maybe I hope you found it useful as well. Maybe it helps you out if you are having a little bit of trouble with your swing timing. So if you did enjoy it and you did find it in any way useful, if I can get my words out, don't forget to drop it a like. Feel free to comment your thoughts down below. If you have not done so already, make sure to hit subscribe. I shall talk to you all in the next video. Until then, take care, have yourselves a good one, and bye for now.